So, here we are. Today I'm going to be running through a simple tutorial in playing Rimworld. Now I've got approximately 60 hours in playing Rimworld, and I think I know a thing or two. I'm going to go over a few things. Firstly, we'll be starting a new colony and what to look for, what options to choose, and a few other things. And the next will be finding a place on the world to start your colony. And then finally, what to look for when choosing colonists. And then, well, after that, of course, is playing the game. So when you first launch Rimworld, you'll get this opening screen. You'll have your version up at the top left. I'm in version 1.0.2150. 64-bit, compiled January 16th, 2019, and I'm logged into Steam as Spade Scout. This is made by Ludian Studios, and the story generator is by Tynan, Sylvester. We have a number of options, including the buying soundtrack, along with language options, which there are quite a few. I may go into the fiction later, perhaps in another video, but if you are new to the game, I'd suggest running through the tutorial after watching this video. It's alright. If we go down, we have New Colony. That's basically starting a new game. Next is, of course, loading a game. Next is Options, and we'll go ahead and click that. In your options, you have a number of, well, options, including audio and visual options, such as the volume of the game, music volume, ambient volume, your resolution, UI scale, custom cursor, full screen, hats shown only when on game map, which essentially, I'll explain later. Plant, wind sway, show real-time clock, show animal names, and you have a couple of options to show the animal names. Keyboard configuration, which allows you to rebind keys you feel necessary to rebind. There's quite a few options. I never really use too many of these, but they're a good thing to look at. You can choose your language, which is on the main menu. You can open your save data folder, which will bring you into another window to look at your save data. This is Reset Learning Helper, which I do not have engaged right now, but I will engage it and reset it. So I will show you what that is when we get into the game. Run in background means that if the game is currently playing, it is not paused, and you Alt-tab or click on something else, the game will continue to play. If you were to turn this off, like I have it off, it will pause the game for you as to make sure nothing bad happens while you're away. The screen edge mouse scroll essentially means that if I was to move my mouse to the top of the screen, the camera would move up, which I'll show later. There is a pause on load, so as soon as you get load in the game, it'll be paused. Pause an urgent letter, which is if something bad was happening, it would pause the game for you, so you may read what happened. Maximum number of colonies is something I'll explain later. Temperature mode for Celsius, Fahrenheit, or Kelvin. You can choose how often you'd like the game to autosave, which you may want to reduce if you want something a little harder, perhaps, or saving is a bit of a hassle. Permanently disabling development mode does exactly that, as there's a dev mode which allows you to place things on the map for free, essentially, and edit some developer options. Enable test map sizes allows you to have map sizes that are possibly very large. Mod settings is something else, but I don't currently know how many mods installed, so there's nothing there. You can add player names, so if I was to click add name, you could type in a name, so let's say Spade, Oh, let's see. If I was to press enter, it would add that name, I believe. I've never actually used this, I'll be honest. The characters will be more likely to randomly appear during play. Restore default settings will do just as that. It will turn these to the default settings. So we'll move on to mods real quickly. As you see, I have a number of mods downloaded, but none of them are currently installed. You should never want to install core, because that's the core game. That'd be bad. Here we have the credits, which is just that. Look at all these wonderful people who made this excellent game. That's quite enough, thank you. You can press enter or escape to skip that. Alright, now let's get to the meat and potatoes. Starting a new colony. You begin by choosing a scenario. Now, you do not start with these customs. These are just my own that I've made. But you can start with Crash Landed, which the three of you awake in your crypto sleep sarcophagi to the sound of sirens and ripping metal. Oh dear. You barely get to the escape pods before the ship is torn apart. Sometime later, you land on this unknown Rimworld. Your faction will be new arrivals. You start with 3 people, chosen from 8. And you start with a number of supplies. Some that are not near you. Next is a lost tribe, where your tribe was destroyed by the great blood machines sent by the gods. 5 of you managed to escape. Now it's time to build up a new home. You start poor and research slowly, and it is a difficult scenario, especially for when you have something difficult that you need to research, because you research slowly. Faction will be a new tribe, which is different than new arrivals. You start with 5 people, chosen from 8, so you get more people. However, you start poor and research slowly, so you only start with a few items. Next we have the Rich Explorer. People called you crazy for leaving your glitter world home, but you always yearned to explore the stars outside the Nero simulator. Now you're at the end of your long journey in crypto sleep, landing on an unknown Rimworld to see what it's like. And note, since your starting character will lack some skills, this is an especially difficult scenario in the early game. You start with 1 person, chosen from 8. You start with a research, gun turrets, and you start with some very nice resources. Next is Naked Brutality, the hardest one. You went under anesthetic for a minor surgery. Now you've awoken in a drop pod crashing into a distant planet. You're naked, alone, and totally unprepared. Can you survive? Warning, there is nothing fair about this scenario. It is extremely difficult, and death can happen for any reason. You're a new arrival. You start with 1, chosen from 8. And you start with literally nothing but yourself, your hands. Now, you can also edit scenarios and do stuff like I've done here, like this interesting one where you start with a number of research and disable some bad things. And I'll go through that in the end. First, we're going to start with the easiest one, Crash Landed. This one's the most simple, as you're not a tribe, so research is easy, and you start with a good chunk of supplies. So we're going to go ahead and click Next. Now, time to choose a storyteller. A storyteller is essentially how you want your game to play out. So in the case of Cassandra Classic, the game will throw something at you and then give you some time to rebuild from the attack or the bad thing that happened. So Cassandra creates story events on a classic increasing curve of challenge and tension. She'll push you with dangerous events, then give you breathing room, then come back and push once more. And with each storyteller you can choose a difficulty. So Cassandra increases difficulty over time, but you can choose how difficult you want it to be from the start, and then continue to grow even more difficult. So next we have Phoebe Chillax. Phoebe gives a lot of time between disasters to build your colony, but beware, at high difficulties she'll hit as hard as anyone. So at harder difficulties, whenever you hit whenever you get hit with, say, a raid or some bad event, it's gonna be tough. Next, we have probably my favorite, Randy Random. Randy doesn't follow rules. He'll generate random events, and he doesn't care if they make the story of a triumph or utter hopelessness. It's all drama to him. Warning, since Randy is truly random, he will sometimes send extremely difficult or unfair groups of events at you. It makes for high drama and unavoidable sacrifices. So in the case of the difficulty here, if you were to choose peaceful, then he might send you something that's tough, and then send you something that's nice and good, and then send you something that's still pretty tough. But say on merciless, then you're more likely to get really bad events. Say a raid that, has twice as many people as you do, and then you're overthrown, and it's a bad day. For this, we're going to go with Phoebe Chillax, and we'll do peaceful. After you choose your difficulty and your storyteller, you can choose one of two options: reload at any time or commitment. Reload at any time is pretty self-explanatory. You can save at any time, and then if something bad happens that you don't like, you can reload a save and, be safe. Commitment mode is just as you would imagine. You cannot save on your own, like physically, and so it will use autosaves. And when you quit the game, it will save. And so at this point, it's commitment. Once you start, you can't load a past save if something goes wrong, and yeah. In this case, we're going to choose reload anytime mode. We'll come down to the bottom right and hit next. Next, you choose the world you want to create. You start with a seed, so we'll do Spade Scout. Look at that. And you can randomize the seed, of course, which will just give you random words, excuse me. Globe coverage, which essentially says how much of the globe or the planet do you want to cover with land that you can land on. Having it a higher percentage takes a bit longer for the game to start up. We'll leave it at 30% for now. Overall rainfall is pretty self-explanatory. How much rainfall do you want on the planet? Do you want it to be very dry or very wet? And same for temperature. Do you want it to be very cold or very hot? We'll leave it on normal for right now. And you can reset this to the original settings if you so desire. Next, we'll come down to the bottom right and click Generate. Will now generate your world, which may take a few seconds to a few minutes. Here's mine. So in this interface, you can use the scroll wheel to zoom in and zoom out. The left click selects a position, which is in hexagons. So if I was to zoom in and select one of these hexagons, I can see some items about it in the terrain tab. The planet tab tells you about the planet. You can pan by holding down right click. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. You hold down the center mouse and you can pan. You can move it around wherever you want to drag, but you must click and hold the middle mouse. So on this planet, there are a number of biomes, including deserts, plains or temperate forests. There are tropical rainforests. There are tropical swamps. There are boreal forests, coniferous trees. There's another boreal forest. Oh, here we have an arid shrubland. Let's see if we can find plains. That's essentially what the temperate rainforest is. In the terrain tab, you can see what kind of terrain it is. So in the case of here, it's rather flat. Oh, excuse me. It is rather flat, and the move difficulty is 1, which is about average. You can see the stone types in that area. So when we spawn here, or drop here, we can see we'll have those type of stone hills, or there won't be very many, but there will be some. You can see the elevation, the average temperature. So here, the minimum temperature throughout the year is 30 degrees Fahrenheit. maximum temperature is 75 degrees Fahrenheit. The growing period is 30 to 60 days, between the days of 6th of April, May, and 6th of September. The months in this game act more of seasons. There's summer, winter, and fall. So there are 15 days in each month, and it goes in a big circle, and we'll get cold and then we'll get hot, and in between, yeah. Next you see the rainfall, how much rain it gets each year. In this case, 1211 millimeters a year. And the forageability is if there are berries here. Next you can see if there's animals can graze there, which they currently can. The average disease frequency is 1.2 per year, so there is a high likely chance of you getting 1.2 diseases each year. The time zone is 0. If you click over here in a different place, you see the time zone changes. And you can see the sun move just a little bit, see the shadow. Alright, next I will go over the different types of land. So we've already seen the temperate forest, which is flat. Next we'll look at the small hills, which usually consists of small little bits of hills. And this just has more stone for you to mine. Next is this large hills, which has some more stone. And as you go from small hills to large hills, you'll see that the movement difficulty increases. It's 2.5 for large hills and 1.5 for small hills. But if we were to say click on these, which are mountainous, you'll see that the movement difficulty is 4. And there's a lot of mountains there and stone that you have to deal with. Some of these will have caves. Let's see if I can find one here. Here we are. Special features. Caves. So in this mountain, there are a number of caves that bugs live in. Those bugs are pretty nasty. These darker mountains are impassable, which isn't entirely true. Oh, I take that back. You actually can't pass over that, but you can start here. It's rather difficult as there is not much land to work with. So next we have rivers, which there are creeks and wide rivers and thin rivers and swamps, of course. So a river will give you a river going through your colony that you can use to harvest energy. Then you have roads. There are different types of roads that allow you to travel at certain speeds, well, faster than your average ground. So if you were to say take this terrain flat and replace it with this road, you'd see that goes from movement difficulty 1 to 0.5. So we travel a little bit faster here. Let's look at the factions now. As you'll see, there's a number of little dots, places all over the place. We can come down here to factions and see who is neutral with us and who is hostile. There will always be hostile people, such as the Rats of Suffering, the Pirate Band. They will always try and raid you and take all your good stuff. So what I like to do is stay away from the hostile people and stay close to friends, which in this case is the color purple and the color yellow. So let's see if we can find a place that's close to purple and yellow, or one or the other. Here we go. Oh, it's a rainforest. I want to stay out of a rainforest. I like to stay with a temperate forest. Let us see here. This looks like a very good spot. What's the temperature here? Ooh. As you can see, it gets very cold in winter. Do not want that. So, the closer you are to the equator, which is approximately here in my case, the warmer it will be, and the further away you get, the colder it will be. Let's see how it is here. 74 to 24. It's not too terribly bad. Let's click around, see, just watching the temperature here. Down here actually looks rather nice. 83 to 40. This looks pretty nice. It's got a river to show off how river can provide power. It's got some small hills to dig into. It's forageable. Gets decent rainfall. Looks good to me. Alright, let's quickly go to this bottom bar. We can click on back, which will take us back to the previous menu in making the world. Then we have advanced. This allows you to choose the map size you want. Now, if you don't have a very good computer, you might have some difficulty running the large maps. So I'll go ahead and run probably this one. I like a large map. Now, I would suggest going into spring, because that gives you time to prepare for winter. Because in the winter, plants can't grow. In some places. Some places are warm enough all year round to grow plants all year round. Go ahead and close that. Now you have the option of selecting a random site, which will choose a completely random place all over the planet, not including the sea, of course. Okay. With this option, you can choose 2 different points by right-clicking and see how far it would, how long it would take to travel. In this case, it would take approximately half a day. And animals can graze, and there is forageable food all the whole way there. Cool. So you can just press escape and clear that. Down here we have some more options. So we can toggle visibility of land forms. So in this case, like Cristobal's Stand Hills or Orange Grouse Swamp. We can turn those off. Or here we can toggle the displaying expanding icons. Or toggle the day-night lighting system, which in this case we can't see too well. And we can turn off the rotation of the camera so that it doesn't always point north. And we can click to rotate it, I believe, or not. I actually don't know how that works. Let's go back to our position here. Turn on terrain to see it again. So this looks mighty fine for me. It's got trees. It's got some space for us with these small hills. It's got a river for power. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is stone types. These are rather important. Different types of stone have different properties. So in this case, we have marble, which is quite pretty. We have limestone, which is I believe the second strongest stone in the game, behind granite. So let's see if we can find some other types of slate and sandstone. Here we go, marble, granite, and slate. Granite is the hardest, and marble is the prettiest. So I usually try and find a place that has both marble and granite, and preferably not caves, because those insects in the caves can be a real doozy. But in this case, I'll stick with the second strongest stone in the game, limestone. Alright, I believe we're ready to start. Go ahead and click next and choose our characters. So, we get to choose 3 of 4 people. We can drag them around to replace people. As you can see, just move them around a little bit. Alright, let's go over choosing and just looking at the people, the characters. So each character has, of course, a name, first name, middle name, and last name. They have a gender, and what they are. They will be a colonist of new arrivals, and they'll have an age. In this case, he is 67 years old, but has existed for 85, and that's curious, because how could one possibly be 2 ages? But how that works is, this is the future, and there are crypto-sleep caskets, which is essentially just cryo-sleep. You can lay in them and your body won't age, but time will pass. So in this case, Selection here has been in a crypto casket for a number of years, but he's lived for 67 years. He's experienced 67 years. I don't feel like doing the math between that, but it's a little less than 20, I'd say, that he's been in a cryo sleep or crypto sleep. Next is the backstory. If the character is under 20, they will not have an adulthood, but they will still have a childhood. So in this case, Celestion here was a child of glass. There are a lot of different backstories, and each of them provide bonuses and, bad stuff. And sometimes they can disable they can disable skills for them to use. In this case, wardening is disabled, which is essentially where they talk to prisoners and try to recruit them. And then also handling is disabled, so they can't train any animals. Next, in his adulthood, he was a lone traveler, which provides its own pros and cons. Next we have incapable of, which he's incapable of social, and animals, as we saw with Child of Glass. These can also be affected by traits, which are just extra things besides the backstory. So in this case, he's a teetotaler, where he hates the idea of getting high and drinking. And he's also a bit lazy. These also are completely random, and there are many, many different traits. Here we have his skills, where you can see how good he is at doing certain things. And in this case, he has 2 flames of passion for shooting, and you can only have a maximum of 2. And that means that he learns at 150%. 150%. If you were to have 1 flame of passion, he would only learn at an average amount. But if you don't have any flames of passion, you learn at a 35%, which is rather low. So he'll learn construction skill very slowly. Next, you have their health. So he has hearing loss in both ears, and his torso is frail, which reduces his moving speed and his manipulation speed, which is not good. Then he has some scars on both his legs, which give him pain. He always feels pain from these, which is rather sad. And if he had relationships, he would go here. Let's see if I can find someone with relationships. So he has relations with his mother, Slug, and it's plus 30. And because it's plus 30, he has a mood improvement of plus 10, as he knows that somebody, enjoys his company. Oh, here's his mother now. Her mother, my apologies. So that's how relations work. Oh, and in this case, health, you can also have addictions, which can cause quite some problems. Alright, so, say you don't like any of these people, any of them at all. You can come up here to the top right where there's randomize, and you can create a new character. And you can click this as many times as you want until you find somebody that's either completely overpowered or really bad. I mean, look at that shooting skill, oh my. However, she's incapable of firefighting because she's a pyromaniac. And because she's a pyromaniac, she will sometimes go on random fire setting sprees, which is not good. I usually try and avoid pyromaniacs, because having fires everywhere is not good. Let's go ahead and go up to Solik here and just randomize him. Whenever I start a new colony, I try to find someone that will be doing plants, find someone that will do construction, and find someone that will do crafting. Let's see if I can find someone that will do plants. It's good at plants and enjoys growing plants. So whenever you are randomizing, you can't go back, so make sure you study your people very quickly, very good. So make sure you study them. In this case, we have a pretty good person. Oh, she's good at quite a few things. Look at that. That's what she enjoys doing. She really enjoys doing construction, mining, plants, and intellectual work. And her name is Alicia, or Takoi. I think I'll keep Takoi. Let's look at her traits. Well, she has an awful immune system, is more likely to get illnesses, but her medical has improved. She's also a misandrist, where she dislikes and distrusts men. This means that whenever she speaks with men, she probably won't be saying very nice things and will make them upset. Which isn't always the greatest, but you can deal with it usually. Let's move on to our next character, Dean. Let's see if we want to keep him. Transhumanist means that he wants artificial body parts. He has a great memory, so he won't lose unused skills very quickly. He's a bit of a wimp. Let's randomize until we find something better. Perhaps someone with good construction. He's incapable of social and cleaning. And he's a nudist transhumanist. Let's keep looking. Oh my. Perhaps not. Now we are talking. Look at this person. Age 52. She's got quite a few skills, including plants. I think we should keep Lamb. So we have Decoy, Lamb, and let's take a look at Kate. Oh my, quite the fighter. Oh, she hates... Oh, she finds it exciting to get hurt. Well, you do you, boo. We'll look for others. Perhaps we should have someone that's good at crafting and medical. Having a doctor in your colony is a very good idea. Speaking of which, do we have anyone else that's good at medical? Not really. This is close, but maybe not. Ooh, this looks good. Psychically sensitive. She's more sensitive to psychic attacks. It's a bit greedy, and she likes having a best room. Or he, sorry. I don't like greedy people. They are, well, greedy. Here we are. Let's see, Norman. Norman Decoy. We have two Decoys, it seems. Are they brother and sister? Oh, they're oh. Father and daughter. That's interesting. So, Decoy is a misandrist, where she distrusts men. And Norman is a misogynist, where she distrusts women. So they really don't like each other. Alright, we can have mother-father here. So he's good at cooking, he's good at crafting, he's decent at medical and social. He looks good to me. Alright. I will be honest with you. And I believe these are the maximum skills that we have on the team, yes. So our best intellectual is 4. Best shooting is 4. So we don't have much in the way of shooting. Best construction and mining. Alright. We have chosen our people. Let's go down to the bottom right and hit start. Alright, so here we are. When we start the game, you usually get a little text box like this. The 3 of you awake in your crypto-sleep sarcophagi to the sound of sirens and ripping metal. You barely get to the escape pods before the ship is torn apart. Sometime later, you land in this unknown Rimworld. As the pieces of shredded starship fall around you, you start making plans to survive. Alright, so we'll go ahead and hit OK. And our people land. Oh, let's look at our folks here. So we've started with a number of supplies, including a good chunk of food, a cat named Goomba, and here we have our colonists, Decoy, Lamb, and Norman. As you can see, they start with a number of supplies around them, and weapons. We should equip our people. So, let's go ahead and start looking at the menus here. It's good to start with an architect, because this is usually how you set orders, you build structures, furniture, security. When you first play the game, it's a good idea to click through here and take a look around. But we're going to go ahead and begin with orders. We can set certain orders like canceling orders, deconstructing structures, mining out stone, smoothing stone, hauling some certain things, cutting plants, harvesting, chopping, hunting, slaughtering animals or tamed animals, taming animals, uninstalling structures, claiming structures, stripping corpses and the wounded, opening containers such as graves, forbidding items and allowing items, and then planning and removing plans. We want to allow everyone to pick up these items, and we'll go to the allow tool, hotkey to the key U. We'll go ahead and draw a big old box around everything. See that? The little red X's are now gone. We can zoom out and see if there are any other red X's. I see some there. Let's allow them to pick those up too. And let's take a quick look at our map. As you can see, here runs the river. And we have a number of hills. So, hills here and there, made of stone. As you can see what kind of stone they're made of. In this case, the whitish color is marble. This yellow color is limestone. And we also have structures, such as these granite walls that spawned naturally. Oh, you may have noticed this. Mega sloth, and that's exactly what it is. It's a giant sloth. It has quite a chunk of health and can do some damage with its claws. It's best not to mess with these gentle giants. Let's see if we can find any other wildlife. Speaking of which, we can go to the wildlife tab, and we'll get a list of all of the wildlife in the area. Maybe looking at this, recognizing some of these, but you likely won't recognize the muffalo, which, as I understand it, is a modified buffalo, genetically modified. We can take a look at its stats and other items with this eye here. Bring us to this menu where we can get a lot of advanced stats about it, like what it eats, how much you could carry, because you can pack stuff, you can tame it and use it as a pack animal, what kind of leather it gives, how much it sells for in the market, if it is a pack animal or not, its pain shock threshold, and a number of other things, how much damage it does. While also in the wildlife menu, you can see what gender the wildlife is, and if it's an adult or a juvenile. Then you can mark animals to be hunted, you can tame animals, and you can see the percentage that they'll seek revenge on being attacked by hunting or by if you fail a taming. The final option, the final thing you see, is if it is a predator, and if it will hunt smaller creatures and possibly even people. In the case of the grizzly bear, if there are no other smaller creatures about, it will attack humans and try to eat them as for food. For the river, you may notice that there is a lighter blue color and a darker blue color. The darker blue color is chest-deep moving water, which slows you down greatly. Then you have also shallow moving water, which slows you down a little bit less. Okay, now, the most daunting task in the game. Finding a place to place your colony. I like to use the natural forms of the hills and find a nice little alcove to sit in and use the hills or the mountains as cover, as walls. So this one actually looks pretty nice. It has a big field near it that we can use to farm crops. But let's see what else we have. This area here with some steel that we can mine to, of course, get steel. And we have compacted machinery, which will give you components, which I'll go into later. We have some jade, which is a useful resource, or expensive resource. Let's go with... You know what, I think we'll stick with right here. It might not be the safest point, but it looks pretty nice. We could set up some fields right here, build some housing in here, maybe dig into the cave a little, dig into the mountain a little bit for initial housing. So this is where we want to set up. Oh, I just noticed I missed some steel. We're going to want that. Yoink. Oh, another feature I should go over is geysers. These steam geysers can be, covered up and surrounded by walls and a roof to heat up a room if you don't have any other form of heating. However, it can get very hot. Or you can use them for power with steam generators, which you have to research. But for right now, I'm going to go over zones real quickly. So as you can see, we have a number of items just laying about. That's not good. We want to put these items all in the same place so that they're easily accessible, and preferably out of the elements, because if you were to check this wood, it's slowly deteriorating because it's unroofed and it's outdoors. Same goes for this steel helmet, plasteel helmet. But certain items like the silver and the steel over here do not deteriorate if they're outside. Most things do deteriorate if they're outside, like this medicine and these guns and clothing, but not these steel slag chunks. Alright, we'll go into stockpiles. So we'll make a stockpile for them to bring all of their resources to. You just choose the stockpile zone and click and drag. We're just going to do a basic stockpile. And as you saw, we have the learner helper. We can see the time controls, which I haven't gone over yet, and the storage tab. The time controls are down here at the bottom right, where you can hit play to go at normal speed. You can go a little faster, and then very fast. Let me demonstrate those real quick. So if we were to select lamb, and use draft, which makes them into a fighting unit, we can then hit play, and right click to select where they go. So if we were to say a further distance and hit a little bit faster, she goes a little bit faster, or perhaps super fast. You can click her around and she zooms around the map, but so does everyone else. So we can hit space and pause the game. If we hit space again, you'll see that it goes back to that top speed. So you may have noticed, after I put that stockpile and hit play, that everyone has started moving items into the stockpile. They will only move important items, but they will not move, say, a limestone chunk or other chunks unless you tell them to. So they're going to begin by bringing items to the stockpile, so that they may have food and other resources stockpiled. We're going to begin with putting a structure around the stockpile so that items that deteriorate while outdoors stop deteriorating. So since we have a good chunk of wood, a bit more wood over here, we're going to make wooden walls. We go to structure, where you can make bridges or remove them. You can make doors, or you can make walls. We're going to have to select wall. When you first click wall, you get to choose what material you want it made out of. Now there are much more than just these three, but these are the only materials we have available. If I was to say cut these stone chunks into blocks, I could use them to build like stone walls. But I don't have any stone blocks, so I cannot. We're going to go ahead and click wooden wall. And we're going to use the WASD keys to move the camera about, or the arrow keys. We're going to go ahead and click and drag a wall, and release to let them build it. And then we'll build another one, say off here. Do that. Build another one across. Now you may be asking, how are they supposed to get in here? Well, let me click the wooden door and replace one of these walls with a door. How about that one? To clear a tool, like stop using it from your cursor, you can right click. So now someone will build those walls. You're like, but maybe you want your best constructor to build those walls. Then we should go to the work tab and set people to do certain types of work. So you have the option to turn it on and off. Say you don't want Takoi here to do any growing or mining, you can turn it off. Or say you wanted to make it a little more advanced and hit the manual priorities, which is how I usually play. When not in manual priorities, priorities go from left to right, as you can see from the top. So if a fire was to break out, the first thing they would do is go extinguish the fire. But I like to use manual priorities, so I'm going to go ahead and set up the priorities and explain to you why I did what. Alright, so I've just finished setting up the priorities. I may make some minor changes later, but this is what I currently have. So I set this up based on how good they are at the skills, and you can see how good they are based on how lightly colored the box is. In this case, Lamb here has a cooking skill of 10, so the box is a little bit white. The one above her, Takoi, only has a cooking skill of 4. You see the box is a little bit darker, but she's good at other items. So with these manual priorities, you can set firefighting to be off, or a lower priority, as it works from 1 down to 4. So in this case, she will first do firefighting, then be a patient if she is in a life-threatening health condition, and she has the option to doctor, but it's definitely not priority. She will do bed rest first, where she will go to bed if she is feeling sick or ill, and she will deal with basic tasks first, like flicking switches on machines. She will not warden, will not handle, will not cook, will not hunt, but will construct because she enjoys it. Growing, mining, planting. To adjust the priority, you can use left click to increase, right click to decrease. And I went down and adjust these as I desire. In the case of Lamb here, she's not very good at researching. Only has a skill of 1, so the box is red to indicate that the skill is very low. Next I'll move on to restricting. Restricting allows you to choose what time of day they work, or what area they're allowed in. In this case, this would just be the home area, which is determined by if you've built anything in there. Next is Area 1, which hasn't been established yet. I will set up their work schedule as I like to do it. Here we are. I set up Takoi's work schedule as I like to do it, which is sleeping for 8 hours, starting at 2200, and she wakes up at 6 to do a little work. This gets her going, because if you were to have her do recreation as soon as she's supposed to wake up, she'll just stay in bed. So I usually get her to do some work, and then she can have some time for recreation. And then a little break where she may do whatever she wants. And then we'll work for 4 hours and have another break at 13. And then we'll work for another 4 hours, have a break from 18 to 19. And then we'll have recreation time where she will go play horseshoes or play chess or any other recreation. Now say you wanted to copy this and move it to the other people for them to have the same schedule. All you need to do is click this button where it says copy, and then click this where it says paste, and you can paste the schedules. Now this is a good setup for someone that is not a night owl. A night owl is someone that prefers to be awake at night. Let's see if we have any night owls. Starting with Takoi. We'll click on her up at the top, and we'll go to bio, where we can see her stats, like when we were choosing her as a character. We go into traits and see that there is no night owl, so we will leave her schedule as the same. Oh, Lamb here is a night owl. She prefers to be awake at night, which in this case is from the hours of 2300 to 06. And it has a mood loss if awake during the day, which is 11 to 18. So it's best to make her sleep from those times. So let's adjust her work schedule to reflect that. I'm going to go ahead and reset it with everything. Oop, my apologies, I missed a little bit. So since it's already still copied, I can just paste. So we'll fix that. So she likes to sleep from the hours of 11 to 18. Let me see how many hours that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 hours of sleep. That's good. And then we'll have her work. Do recreation. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we are. Perfect. Now she will hopefully not complain as much about being awake during the day. Let's look at Norman. He is not a night owl. We have nothing to change. So we're going to wait for our people to move all of the items into our stockpile. Just hit play. Maybe speed it up a tad. Oh, we see here that as Decoy is trying to build, she's failing at times. And when she botches construction, she loses some resources. So we'll let her build and speed up time. Look at them go, building away, gathering resources as needed, as they have to bring the wood to the point to build the walls, of course. Okay, so now the walls have been built. As there is an enclosed space, they will put in a roof. You can set where there will be roofs built by the build roof area. When you have an enclosed space like this with a door, they will automatically build a roof. But you can have them not build a roof by doing this, with remove roof area. But I want a roof, so there. We'll go ahead and let them speed that up and let them build that roof. Roofs cost nothing. They're very handy. Okay, so now this area is considered indoors and has a roof. So if we were to select something that would deteriorate, such as these packaged survival meals, we notice that it does not say it is outdoors, and it does not say that it is unroofed. So it will not deteriorate over time. Alright, let's hit fast forward and let them gather the rest of the resources. There we are. The resources have been gathered, and Lamb is sleeping, as she should be. But you may have noticed the little red Z whenever people would walk in. That's because her sleep has been disturbed. If we go to needs, we can see her mood, and see that she's been disturbed 3 times while she's trying to sleep. That's unfortunate. Best way to negate that is to have each person have their own bedroom. Alright, well that pretty much sums up what I'd like to show in this tutorial. This is only the first part where we show the very basics of getting started. Now I'll show you how to save the game and quit. If we press escape, we get this menu here, and it pauses the game for us. In this menu we have the same menus as, well, similar menu options as the main menu, including saving, loading, reviewing a scenario, options, quit to main menu, and quit to OS, which is your operating system or your desktop. Go ahead and click save. As you can see, there are already a number of saves, including the auto saves. I'm going to go ahead and name this Tutorial 1. And click save. Now if we were to go to load game, there it is. The date and time it was made, and the version of the game. Close that. If we were to go to review scenario, it just tells you what scenario you are running with materials and such. Options is the same as the main menu. And quitting the main menu is self-explanatory. It quits the main menu. Quit to desktop, or OS is quitting to your desktop. We'll go ahead and, since we saved, quit to main menu. Now if I had not saved, it would have asked, would you like to save before quitting? And then you would make your choice. But that is it for this first tutorial. If you have any questions or any comments, please leave them in the comments section. I will respond as quickly as I can. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have found this educational and informative and enjoyable. And if you're still awake at this point, nice job. That's all I have for now. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.